everyone, my name is Sahasrara and welcome to this video wherever you're seeing it. Today we're going to speak about the alchemy of money. For those of you who don't know, alchemy is a word that simply means to change the form or change the state of one thing to another thing. So from water to wine, grief to joy, and this is what the alchemists were doing, changing a substance into gold. When we talk about it in this context, and we're talking about like our development. We're talking about transmuting ourselves from matter to spirit. We're talking about bringing the soul substance and the soul light into the body. Now, the reason this relates to money is because alchemy relates to every single aspect of your entire life, because it is all about your development of your soul, and that's what we're incarnated here to do. And that is what I focus on and teach here. And I love the wording of that because money is a really interesting thing where it can be like whatever we are vibrating with it. It isn't like, you've heard people say like it isn't real, it isn't a thing. Money is more like, you could think about it more like a concept than like a thing. I think that that is better. And within that concept, you are going to project into money your vibrations around whatever this concept of money has come to represent to you in your life, your associations with it. Now, a lot of people have different associations with money. For example, if someone grew up like super rich and they never thought about money, they may not have associations with money relative to survival. Whereas people who have had experiences where the absence of money affected their sense of, or in realness, their survival, then they're going to have that association. And so, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, money. It's kind of like water, and like if you've seen them talk about imprinting, how water holds memory, and how you can impress upon water or imprint upon water intentions, and also that it gets impressed upon by the energy around it. And there's been studies and things with that Japanese man whose name I can't remember right now about that. And yeah, so when you talk about money and alchemy of money, or wanting to make more money, or wanting to heal your relationship with money so that you can live in a state of abundance in our current world and the usage of money that we've applied money to, you need to look at like, what are my impressions that I have impressed upon money? What are my associations with money? Because like water, money just is. It just is, and that's what we mean by it being just like a concept of whatever you make it. And it just is because it's like water. It's like a blank energy. It's a blank energy. If we're going to make it something, it's a blank energy like water, and then I impress upon it what my associations are with it. And I just want to make a note here that I'm channeling at the same time as I'm speaking. So sometimes I might take a moment to connect more deeply. So yeah, so money is like that. And so when you're healing, and see, even now, okay, so even now when I'm speaking about this, I'm getting this like, oh, like an expansion in my heart area and my chest area right now. And I know that that's my spirit guides working with me and my alchemy with money. And this is the thing. Look at my cat's paw on the I don't know if, I hope you guys can see that. He just put his paw up. Oh, he's so cute. Okay, he's just cleaning himself. You know how they put their leg up to clean their butt. Oh, okay. Okay, so life is always teaching you, and you know, money can represent life, water represents life because of that energy association and neutrality and abstractness of it as a concept. It's so funny. And I feel like I've like that manifested right now because my guides are trying to show me that receiving money can come in a joyous way, which has been a theme for me, is how can I align to receiving more abundance through my joy. And my joy is to sit here and speak with you about spirit and about alchemy. Like, that's my favorite thing, you know? And as I do that work, you know, the universe supports you with abundance and resources to facilitate your joy, because your joy is your soul's intention and purpose and adds to the collective. So, yeah, there's another note for you. So, yeah, money is like this. So, our relationship with money, just like your relationship with anything that you would want to have in your life or manifest in your life. So you could look at your relationship with men, or your relationship with like a woman. You can look at your relationship with something else you want to manifest. I can't think of anything right now. But like whatever you're projecting into that experience, and if that manifestation isn't coming in or isn't quite right or something for you, it means that there's a challenging and disruptive projection going on within that connection, within that thing, where you've impressed upon it and you have a negative association. And it's good to simplify the alchemy of money sometimes by sometimes talking about it like a relationship, being in a relationship with it, because you are in a relationship with life and life energy. You are in a relationship with everything that you're experiencing in this world, including money. And for, let's say, the majority of people, their associations with money often have things to do with life. They have things to do with like life energy. So, and then your association with survival, your association with how alive are you, how much energy is flowing through your body. And yeah, or the absence of that. This is where it's nuanced. So, side note is, people, when I say that, sometimes people will be like, in my own brain in the past, it's like, well, what about like, you know, super like dead inside evil people that have like heaps of money, right? This is the thing, is that money is neutral and their associations with it are not impacting that. No, I should say, let's say I am like a darker person. I can have a lot of money, right? But my impressions upon that money are not going to be good or healthy. So, like, there are people that have made money off of like manipulating people, for example, or causing damage to the world. That's what that money has gotten impressed upon it. And so, when that person utilizes that money, its core vibration is like not good unless they change themselves. You know, people can have a lot of money, but they still feel empty inside. And then they spend more and it looks good on the surface, but the vibration that's going on is not one of abundance and they don't feel fulfilled. So these are the sort of nuances. And that's why it's such a like a nuancy conversation, because you got to think about it like the water being impressed upon it. And the fact that life energy and water energy just is. It always is an infinite supply. It always is. And that's sort of place of that divine truth, I believe, is ultimately where we want to get to. It's because this is the thing. If I have that divine truth anchored into me, I do not believe in the delusion and illusion of lack. Okay, so lack isn't real. This is the thing. Lack implies an absence of energy or a complete nothingness. But even in nothingness, in void or in womb of the universe, there is the sacred potential for everything. So what that is saying to you is that in all forms, void, nothingness, and the masculine of being a more forward principle or being manifest principle, not the feminine. In that way, these things are actually containing the potential of life all the time. So life always is, even in what looks like death or lack. Life is, because death is always rebirth. The void is the mother, and that is a thing. Okay, and it contains the charge, it contains the ingredients for the potential of everything. So that's getting into like the mechanics of the delusion of lack, right? But if you want to be truly abundant and in the healthiest sense of being in that vibration, that is the reality. And that is also to be sovereign in your abundance, because the illusion of there being lack of money comes from the imprisoning, delusory belief that a lot of humanity shares, that I don't contain all that is already, and that energy can be, that like the delusion of death and lack, that energy can be non-existent, or that God can be non-existent, or that I could be disconnected from God. Okay? I never can be. So that's like I'm hearing like that's like the final boss of money alchemy and or money manifestation, is to get to a place of money absolutely always is, whether or not physical money is like manifest there or not. I want to have that core belief that associates with God and life, that lack and death are an illusion. Now, when I embody that and I can hold that frequency, simply naturally, my abundance is going to overflow, because I'm in that ocean, that infinite ocean of life energy, of water, of money. You see? And so it means like even when numbers or something move in my bank account, and it and we can see this, okay? So the way that you can see this, even when money moves in my bank account and it looks like less than or lack, it isn't, because why did that money move? Because I gained something, because I like purchased something. And that means that the money simply got transmuted. Like when I bought this microphone, it cost like $100. Oh, I'm lacking $100 now. Or am I? Because it just changed form into this. It changed its form. This is what we might tangibly actually mean when people say cliches like money is all around you, abundance is all around you. This is like a really cool example I just made up in my brain that I'm very proud of. I really like that. That helps me too. To understand that there's no disconnect, you know? And it is the same with death. It is the same, like everything just changes form. Okay? Yes, you can lose, but even the perception of losing is based in human attachment and not the spirit. It's based in the mind. So this is a place that I want to get to with my money alchemy. And it's the core of it, you know? And getting to that core can involve unique to you, because it's unique to you, your associations, your impressions, and your everything that you've got going on in your relationship with money. Sometimes, as I say, we need to build to that perspective. Okay, so in order to sincerely believe that I am everything and everything's infinite and death is an illusion and there is no lack and money always is, and life always is, money always is, and I always have it, I'm always abundant, and therefore I'm going to be trusting and receiving it in abundant ways, like infinitely. In order to fully embody that and have that manifest through my own psyche, through my physical body, through my aura, and then outwardly into my third dimensional expression, I might have building blocks to get to. So in order to hold that sort of perspective, maybe I need to work on a sense of I am stable, I am secure. I need to feel secure in life. I need to feel secure enough to believe that. Maybe, yeah, because a lot of people, for example, so here's an example people have around safety, around money, okay? And if you could believe like everything is infinite, and then I'm safe, but then, and that could work for some people, but some people, they might be like everything's infinite and it's abundant, but they still feel this unsafety because that frequency needs more love and attention. So you got to look at it unique to you. You got to look at what are my associations with it. If I was in a relationship with money, like as a lover or a friend or a parent or the universe, whatever, how would that be? Like, how do I feel towards it if money was a person? For example, this can be a good way to like figure out what your associations and impressions are and how, like, where you're at, and then you can extrapolate from that, like, okay, like what is going on. I've got like cat hair on my lip. Yeah. And I want to speak about my experience and my journey with this because it's been very prevalent, and important. So, uh, I'm going to preface this by saying that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are in business, they're never going to show you the vulnerability on the other side of what they're projecting into their work for you. And you're not supposed to do that because you're supposed to be like a brand and things like that. But what every entrepreneur and successful person of any kind, I should say, is not showing you often is that everybody goes through ups and downs with money, and it's very rarely a constant like this. I think you do reach a point where it kind of builds momentum and it compounds, and that stability and everything can compound. But also anything can happen, anything can change to like a billionaire, you know, things can happen, and you have all sorts of associations and frequencies, and being a human, we have these things, and life can be different than how it's been before. So when I first heard one of my mentors saying to me, yeah, like I went through phases where I was really good financially, and then I went broke, and now I'm here. And, you know, that time, like I was like just working 3 jobs and trying to build my business. Like I didn't get here overnight. Like, and then I did, and then I fell down again. When I heard that from really successful people, it really helped me to not feel like, you know, like a loser. If like your journey in money development or success is not like just this perfect straight line upwards and upwards. It's really funny now. It's really like hilarious that we think that that's how it's going to be, because all healing and things is like this. And this is more, I think, going to happen in an entrepreneurial or a creative or visionary thing where you've got money flowing into that, because those things are your soul expression, and so your business and stuff is going to be directly mirroring your journey. So yeah, so I've had a period where I was doing really, really well with financial stuff, and then everything went like total opposite, and I felt really unstable, and like I didn't understand what the fuck was happening. And I talked about this in another video that I may or may not have posted before this one. I can't remember. But I went through like a massive death cycle. And I've seen this happen to like 6 of my entrepreneur friends, where they're doing really good and they get to a certain point, and then usually it's come with some sort of quantum leap or identity shift, and then they actually crash and lose everything. And it's because if you want to change, you have to go through death and rebirth. And if your business is directly like associated with your expression of your soul, that is something that's going to reflect in business or career or whatever. And yeah, for me, so I'm going to give a trigger warning here as well. But I just really wanted to be really authentic with this, because I feel like maybe it could help people. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like my past trauma and stuff, and how that impacted my relationship with money. So I was doing like this really well, and then I had a big crash. And it was because I know now that it was because I was calling in like a really next level awesome vision and manifestation of the version of me that I wanted to be, which is the only reason that you want the things that you want to manifest, is you want to be a certain way and feel a certain way. And that, you know, that was super wealthy. And so everything went crazy, and I like lost everything. And I at times were like, oh my God, like what the hell? But now I know that it was because there was things that needed to be cleared out in the foundations to really create what my vision was, which was to create really stable, secure, like legacy level wealth, you know, generational wealth, which is what we're all probably going for. Now, can you imagine, like, if you have unstable foundations for holding that kind of energy, you could get it, but it's not going to last very long. So I had to go through the restabilization and clearing and purification of my foundations related to money. For me, it's been really, really, really challenging, because it brought me into actual near-death experiences, like PTSD, reliving those from when I was small. So when I was very small, approximately 2 years old, my dad choked me. He came into the room where I was in the cot thing, and he just was in a very crazy place in his mind. And yeah, he attempted to kill me. And the only reason that I think that I survived is I remember my mum coming in. I don't really know what she did. Obviously, it's a perspective from like my 2-year-old self, but there are these like pictures that I have. And that's sort of my psychic conclusion. And I'm open to my psyche showing me something else if that's wrong. But yeah, so when that happened, in that moment, that has been carried in my body for 30 years, I kind of like felt like I was dying. So in the moment that that happened, I lost a sense of stability or safety, security, connection to life, to the father energy, to the mother energy, because in that moment I remember the emotions being like this feeling of wanting my mother to rescue me, and just really wanting my mum. I could feel that as like a 2-year-old yearning, and obviously that wasn't met right in that moment. So there was an injury with that as well. And I lost my breath, right? And then I recall, like, I don't have a full near death sort of experience in the way where like I remember going into heaven or anything in other ones that I have, but the feelings and the sensations were so strong. And the feelings were one of like incredible doom, were one of complete like disconnect, and this feeling, this clinging feeling of like I'm about to die sensation, and needing to cling to life and having nothing to cling to, and but then also trying to cling to life as I could feel death coming for me. And I had this bodily memory of the death sensation as well. And I don't believe that all deaths have to be like what I experienced. Death can be extremely like pleasant and peaceful in the sensation, but because of the nature of it, that's how it was. There was like a darkness, and a lot of terror and a lot of fear. And so when my money stuff shifted, that's what was coming up. And so that was in my relationship, all those frequencies of doom and instability, and I'm going to lose everything, and clinging, and having no protection and no safety, and death, like I'm gonna die sensation. I don't know what else to call that sensation than the I'm gonna die feeling. But that, all those frequencies are now in my relationship with life. So with life, with energy, with my breath, with the universe, with being in my body, and with my parent, which as a child, your parent is basically like the universe. That's the force over you that is taking care of you, blah, blah, blah. And that's why as adults in our healing and self-development, we can notice that we have projections onto God or universe or spirit, like, blah, this is so unfair, or some other projection, because you're projecting your relationship and some of the wounds that you had with your parents onto God. So I had those projections and those associations onto God and life. And then, I was 2 years old. And so that was at almost the earliest stage of my life, where it is essential for a child to have a secure connection to healthily attach to, in order to develop secure attachment or connection with life, with being existent, with their self-concept, with themselves, and in relationships with other people. we have to have that as psychologically and nervous system based beings when we're small. And it should get better, and there's different phases as we grow in a healthy relationship with a healthy parent. So that was like one of my first experiences in this world. And I remember sitting on my couch when this trigger was coming up, and like things were shifting in my life and my money was shifting, and I was so triggered. And I was so triggered, you guys, even though I still had what many people would call a lot of money. What was triggering me was like the movement of the numbers going down because, life. And I would just go into this severe fear, like, and I hated like seeing that and experiencing that, because I was this gripping sensation would come up. And so I had like a gripping, hoarding energy towards savings and things like that. And, and like towards spending, and yeah, just like I would feel so unsafe in all those frequencies when things moved. And I kind of had a bit of that in my conscious awareness in like all my life. But at this particular phase and this sort of whole death experience, metaphorical death experience that I had a year or so ago, all of this was coming up really full in my body in a new more conscious way. And yeah, I was sitting on my couch and just like rationally, I know that like I'm okay, but I couldn't get there into a rational place at all. And I remember feeling that looming doom feeling, like the room was like going dark, and I'm like, I can't breathe. And I have this dissociated parts inside of me, fragmented on my psyche, parts inside of me saying like, I can't breathe. And that horrible death sensation and the horrible clinging and the horrible terror. The death sensation, I kind of want to put it as like a word of terror with a darkness. But it's like a trapped terror. The hardest thing about those sort of abuses and traumas is that you're trapped and your body has flight instincts. But when the flight instinct gets like trapped, I found that to be a very sticky thing to alchemize. Anyway, so I was like having that happen anytime that money shifted. And then in this particular phase in my life, everything was shifting. And now I know it was because I started the shifting by walking around manifesting in the beginning and being like, wanting to heal my relationship with money and being like, I am super abundant, like I am a millionaire, like, and affirming that and building that energy into my field and into my body. What's going to happen when you do that? Everything in the way of that higher frequency that you're trying to get to and you're trying to alchemize yourself into, everything in the way is going to need to come up and out. And coming up and out or clearing a purification means that we have to be present with our feelings, and that is the process of alchemy. And a lot of manifestation people are not going to talk about this either. And sometimes I think it's crazy because they don't know who they're talking to. They could be talking to someone like me who has really severe trauma sitting in the background of their psyche. And there are manifestation coaches that are like, just affirm every day, just repeat the script. And it does build that force of like the positive high frequency that you want. But sometimes there's not enough talk of, okay, but what do I do with all of the lower stuff that is now coming up in my life? And I think there's no judgment on that. Like, you don't have to be a specialist in shadow work in order to teach manifesting. I think it's just important to say it, to speak about it. If you're going to talk about manifesting, talk about that part of the alchemy. Yeah, and I as an alchemist, like, sort of knew that would happen, but you don't know what's looming there. And knowing me also wouldn't have stopped me. I would be like, okay, spirit, let's go, like, let's do this, because that's kind of been my attitude towards healing for many years. But yeah, had I have consciously really known how much was there and how hard it would be, I might have put an intention in my manifestations and my affirming, like something like, may this heal in like a very peaceful and easeful way, and at a pace that I can mentally stay well. but I didn't do that, right? So my energy just responds to what I intend. And now I do that because I learned that. That being said, things would have been gone slower, and I know me as well. Maybe I wouldn't want to do that either. Would have been like, why is it so slow? So like my spirit guides and my own soul, like, can't really win with me. Anyway, so I was dealing with that, and it took me, and I'm very practiced at alchemy and stuff like that, right? So, but it took me over a year to really make any shift with that particular trauma memory. It was just so hard. And when you have that going on, it makes it hard to manage your life. And for me, anyway, I had PTSD, and still have some remaining dissociative identity disorder from severe trauma, like what I described when I was little. And that affects the way that you can function in life. And I've been very high functional for years now, and done like 6 years of therapy, and 6 years or 10 years now of training with spirit and alchemy. So I'm good, and it's rare that I have like a flashback or something. It's super rare. But this sort of whole point in time and my alchemy work with money pushed me into a super long period of purification and destabilization, unfortunately. And it was really hard. And I know now what it was doing and the benefit of it, because I'm coming out the other side now, and I'm still working on this money thing as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. So for me, there was like the things about stability and security, and I had to do a lot of work with bringing back my tether internally, energetic, healthy tether to the life wave or to the life force, because that part of me and fragmented parts of me. So when you go through severe trauma like that, your psyche can fragment into dissociated different parts. Like you feel like this part held the sensation of the terror, and this part held the physical sensation of this, and this part holds the visual piece. That's how dissociative identity disorder works, and that's why people dissociate in trauma, because it's actually helping the brain to diffuse and perfuse like the trauma, so it's not so overwhelming. But when you heal, you have to go into each part and bring them home, by bringing your presence to their experience and reclaiming that presence, reclaiming them as yourself, and by reliving it essentially in a very conscious, healthy, regulated, healing, magical way. So I had to relive that whole experience. And I'm still working through it. Like, I can't, it's crazy to say it out loud, like how much that affected my entire life still. And I've had a lot of different traumatic events in my life because I grew up in a ritualistic cult where I was traumatized every day, right? But this particular memory, sometimes there's a particular event where you're just like, oh my gosh, like it really messed me up, maybe because of my age as well. Anyway, so I had to find the part of me that was loss of the breath, and I had to consciously bring my connection back to my breath. And a lot of people we're walking around like holding our breath and not breathing properly in our life because of trauma, not necessarily have to be like this, but because of like limitations and relationship with breath, and that comes up, and trauma patterning that's going on through your lungs and through your breath, or your ability to relax, things like that. And yeah, I had to learn how to breathe again. It sounds weird, but that's what I've been doing, and I'm still doing that. I'm still having to have a conscious breath practice where I just like really feel my breath going in and out. And with this one, there's no mental fixing it. It has to be a physical remembrance, an embodied remembrance of the fact that I am connected to my breath and that nothing can take my breath from me now. And also I had to kind of, in that particular experience, and when you go through death, there are different thresholds of the death doorway, where we might be fighting for our life, and it's good to do that because then you'll come back. And sometimes you cross a point where you could fight for your life, but it's going to be really traumatic if you don't surrender into death and you have a choice. Or sometimes we're just, you've fully died. Okay. Death is a process of surrender. So when I was doing that and I was fighting for my life, there was a threshold that I crossed, and I don't have a better way to explain it. But dimensionally, there was a threshold of like a near-death experience that I crossed where perhaps, for lack of a better way of wording this, perhaps it may have been better for me to have surrendered into death in that moment, because not surrendering into death in that moment left me with that trauma, the trauma of the not surrendering, which is this clinging, like, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die feeling. And I just know that energetically and psychically that's kind of what happened for me. And also I've seen in my own lifetimes, past lifetimes, I had quite a few mirrored experiences where I died and I fought the death, and it left an imprint in my relationship with life of clinging and over attachment. And in those lifetimes as well, it would have been much better to surrender. And so I clung and I attached, and in multiple of them, I still died. So it would have been better to be peaceful in that moment. And in this one, I clung and I attached and I lived. Like, okay, but it still might have been healthier for lack of a better way of putting this, like just being objective, it might have been healthier for me to have surrendered. So in my money alchemy and healing this, if anyone's ever healed severe trauma and you've done therapy or anything, or even just the somatic version of it, you have to sit there and refeel what was unfelt in yourself, emotionally and the physical sensations. And when you do that, your presence, the quality and the energy of your presence alchemizes and releases the trauma. So I had to go towards that part that experienced the death, and I had to essentially live that death here and now, sitting on my couch, like crying and feeling it. And then I gave myself that surrender, and that's what I'm still working on and still doing, is a real surrender to death. And interestingly, that capacity to surrender to death is the same capacity as the capacity to surrender to life. This is why we don't want to fight death, because death is just change and rebirth of more life. And that's why it messes you up if you are going to fight change or rebirth, death, whether that's a metaphorical experience in your life or your physical vessel is done here. You need to surrender to change and cycles that are natural to your body and to our incarnation and to your life experience as you become a different person on your journey, blah, blah, blah. So now my practice is to deeply surrender relative to money, to deeply walk with the knowing that there's nothing to do, there's nothing to be, and that I can just be, and I'm safe to just be in this life. Because that's the opposite message of what I got from that experience, was that being alive meant that I had to fight for my life and I was always in danger, and that in a practical sense it's put on a survival self that is always controlling. So for me, my healing of my impressions with money, my associations with money right now, as far as I've come with that, is I need to open to life and to let go of the control. Letting go of control in life, or letting go of control in money, if you have any similar associations with this at all, is that I need to be okay if the death comes. Should death come, so lack come, I am okay enough that I allow it. Because fighting with it, anything we fight, anything we resist, we're giving energy to. If you are fighting where you currently are with money or any kind of lack in your life or any kind of manifestation and there's a lack of it. If you're fighting with that, you're giving energy to what you don't want. So that's why in manifesting and in money, surrender is a big part of it. And the thing too about money alchemy is that if I surrender to life and death fully, now I'm free to live and I become magnetic to life itself because, as we described, death is just more life. And I become free to make the space for the embodiment of my manifest abundance. How could I do that if I don't have the space because I'm fighting with where I am or clinging? And I'm putting it in these words because I want you to think about your own experience in your relationship with money and your alchemy with money. Like, are you accepting of where your relationship is right now? Are you healing it? Are you doing the work? Like these different things as you hear my story, I really want to invite you to think about where that comes in your life and what is your association with it now, etc. And to think about water as well. So living means that we have to receive. And for me, that was another thing that was really hard, was the lack of the feeling of like I can't breathe ended up coming in an experience of like I can't receive, or I have challenges, I should say, with receiving. It put a limit or an injury on my capacity to receive life because I didn't feel safe to open to life, because when I opened to life, suddenly someone's trying to murder me. So there's a part of me that had an association that being alive means that I'm on watch all the time. And so with the money, right, having the money, like any second it could go. And that's the instability. And that instability manifested itself in my life in the form of like the shifts in money, and in the form of also at that time, like my house environment changing, la la la. Interestingly, as with all our manifestations, the negative things that were happening, the instability in my life, for example, or the loss in my life, was actually good because it was actually bringing me to the manifestation I want to be in, which is not a version of you that has like these deep, dark, like unsafety things that will collapse your manifestation at some point if you don't work on them. It will come up at some point. And for me, it was like just attachment. So in your relationship with money and your alchemy with money, thinking about attachment as well. Like we want to be detached to money and to life. We don't want to have an attachment, like in the unhealthy sense, with life. We want to just be. So the opposite of being attached is to just be, is to just be, to be in acceptance, to just be a living, breathing being. That's why we're called a being. You know, we're not called a doing, because the doing, when it's not from a place of God-inspired, God-breathed action, is us controlling. We're called beings. We're not called controllingings. Wouldn't that be crazy? And for me, now I get to change my association with money, life, see, from clinging and instability, and it's this thing that's like my relationship with it has got danger in it, to I can just be and I will receive. I can just allow life and I'm still breathing. I'm breathing life. I'm breathing money in. I'm receiving it. I'm safe now. I'm receiving it. And I'm releasing with ease. So I'm like buying a microphone or something with ease. I'm exhaling with ease. And then I receive the microphone. So this is like this infinite loop of the breath and the exhale and the inhale of life itself. And it's true if you think about the way that nature works and the way that we are built. We move in cycles, and everything has its cycles. And if you can put that as an impression in your relationship and your impressions with money, you're going to be in a frequency of flow, which is flow is a good word for what I was saying about being, actually, and how to live is we want to live in flow. And I want to have flow with my money, like I want to have flow with my breath. Imagine if I inhaled and then I just never let myself exhale. Like, I'm not going to receive what I need because I'm not like putting the investment out there. It's not going to work, you know? And imagine if I exhaled, is it even possible not to inhale again, to become alive again, to become abundant again? No, at some point my body will uncontrollably force me to breathe, because currently I'm in a physical vessel and I am a living being, and let's say that you died as well, uncontrollably, because you are an aspect of this universe, you will be reborn and you will be forced to breathe again, like forced to live again, in that you never died. So this has been my alchemy of money at the moment, and it's resulted in a lot more peace and it's resulted in stability. So stability was a frequency that I had to work on, and again, thinking about yourself. And for me, that was a lot of work with the masculine and healing my relationship with the holy masculine. So when you were talking about alchemy of money, like I said earlier, thinking about it as a relationship, but you're going to see as well, most people will see as well, that there's a reflection in their experience and relationship with money, in the way that they're showing up for money, the way that money's showing up for them, relative to partnership or romantic relationship, how they've been in the past, how it is now, who you are in those. And so there's a connection to those. And money has, money has a masculine energy and a feminine energy, but this is what we need to know. Money doesn't have like a chosen energy. It has what we put upon it. And if we put upon life upon it, now I can say, okay, money has it has a masculine and a feminine association with it. Okay, so most people, when you're working on a relationship with money, you're going to be healing your feminine and your masculine and go through phases with that. And that's what I teach in my mentorships and my containers as well, is to integrate your holy masculine or integrate your holy feminine, and to watch that reflect in your relationship with money and in the manifestation of money. Most women who are in a feminine embodiment, they want to not even work. Like most people don't want to have to do that, but for women especially, there's I would say, just sort of like an extra friction, because you are a divine feminine being, and to work for money in a way that feels masculine, in a way that feels like I'm doing and I'm gripping and I'm having to make that money come to me, that is so painful. And there's a message here through the womb. There's 303 on my timer. It's not the holy expression of the womb. It's not the holy expression of birth and the void place. That's what women want to be in, is how can I move from my womb and create from and birth from my womb, and then I receive, just like if I receive the holy spark or receive a sperm or whatever. A woman is a receiver. And so I want to receive the God spark inspiration to create and birth something. I want to birth that, and then I want to receive the abundance. The inhale and the exhale, same thing here. And a lot of women, we are working in a way that is destroying our feminine energy. And coming into your feminine energy relative to money will require you to heal the relationship with the masculine, because a lot of women, if we're operating like from not a feminine place, it's because we don't feel safe enough. And safety, stability, security, these are all energies that come from or are in the container of the holy masculine energy. And so when I work with women to level up in your wealth and in your abundance and in your business, if you have one, or just your career, whatever you're doing, and you want to move from a feminine place, we have to go into the masculine work. And when we do that, and when we transform from instability or unsafety and betrayal and grief that's in the way of being able to receive the healthy frequencies of the masculine, which is stability, protection, security, when I heal that, then I become a stable container to receive great wealth and abundance like water, like just to allow the universe to pour into me. That's what we are a vessel, particularly because of the womb space, where a woman is a temple, and you want to receive from your gifts or your joy in this life. That's all we all want to do. I can't speak particularly to men in business. I can speak to men in relationship to money. It is, again, looking at it like a lover or a partnership, like how are you showing up, all of that. And then to move from your holy masculine energy, which would be leadership and more of a creative force that is outward and is building. That's how the masculine manifests or creates or serves, is through what they want to build in the world. And then simply receiving isn't the right word, but like almost like, because I've built, now I've become the money that I seek, is kind of a more masculine way of thinking about it. So this is where I'm at now with all of this, is that to receive abundance is to be like water, and it is to give. Water is also giving and nurturing and nourishing, and allow it to flow in reflection back to you. And there has to be those healings of trust and security, etc., for you to be a match to that. And when we have trust and security, and just when we have trust, we have everything. If I trusted that death is just more life, maybe I would have crossed over and not suffered so much. Obviously, I don't regret it because life is amazing right now. But, just to explain that, if I trust in the death process, now I'm basically non-resistant and therefore like water, unstoppable. Okay? Water is like flowy and soft and gentle, but it's not, because even like however long it takes, over 100 years, if there's like a barrier, water will erode that. So that's what I mean about water will always find a way, or it will erode over time. Like, it literally is unstoppable. So in your relationship with money, especially if you're a woman, you want to become like water. But in order to do that, there may be steps involving a totally different energy, So you want to look at the impressions that you've put upon the water that is your money, and then you want to flow from there. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. In my mentorships, I teach women about feminine leadership as well. And depending where that woman is at, that can look different. So sometimes we have to come into that more strong, like Kali energy that is like to lead, But then there's also a conversation about receiving. And I work with women no matter what level that you are at, because what I want to give to women in my mentorships is that you get to be yourself, your authentic expression, your authentic truth express, your soul self. And from your soul magnetism, you receive the things that you want to manifest or receive in your life. And that would be overflowing wealth and abundance, which looks like and amounts to success in your career, and joyfulness and love, and the love that you want to manifest. But especially if you're running a business, we know how to use certain feminine strategies, to the point where I wouldn't even call them strategies, of moving your business along in a way that feels good to you and feels peaceful and easeful, and knowing when to take inspired masculine action that doesn't drain you, and knowing how to, sell without feeling masculine, how to do it all without being in a hustle, and how to really I really want to see people come into the fullest expression, especially for women. There's a thing about being in your feminine fullness, which is to be your authentic, truthful, unapologetic self, and the richness that then, like, it comes on her skin like honey. This amazing feminine dew starts to come all over you, and like, it's a metaphor, but it's not spiritually, it's happening, okay? But that's this feeling of when people say, like, I'm so in love with myself, or I'm so in love with my life, or I'm so in love with my work. You get oversaturated by your own soul essence and the divine honey and the holy nectar of the womb. This is all these different alchemical things that are happening inside of you when you are in alignment and you are receiving as a feminine temple and a feminine vessel. There's so much richness and like a felt sense of richness, okay, that then overflows and reflects in your relationship with money and in the amount of money that you're receiving, in the legacy of wealth that you want to build, and also like the purpose that you want to give. Because that money and that alchemy, this is something that you want because you have a vision for your life, right? You have a vision from your heart for your life that you want to see come into fruition and you want to birth. And there's no point trying to birth something so grand and beautiful from a place of hustle and stuff. It's not going to work. You need to stabilize the foundations to then call in the feminine force and leadership, to then the feminine ascension process, and which involves clearing the womb, clearing the heart, clearing the throat, a lot of different things. And then now I can become that stable receiver for my highest joy and the next level of my vision and my legacy that I came to leave here, my legacy of light, whether that is an artistic direction, a business, a career, wherever you are in it. You want to come into that fullness. That's what all women are truly craving. And when you get there, it is just, oh, it's like the best feeling. Like I'm feeling it now, you know, because I'm doing my joy and I love it so much. And yeah, so that's my offering for today. I know I mentioned twin flames in the beginning, but I think I'm going to just keep it on money, obviously, because we're at an hour. And I'm going to keep making my twin flame videos as well. So check those out. And I would love to work with you if you are a woman who's got that vision on your heart and you're feeling like, I want to level up and I don't want it to come from hustle, and I want to be in my feminine flow and I want to feel that and I want to live my purpose so richly and deeply. And I would love to know what it's like to just magnetize, just effortlessly magnetize by doing nothing. Feminine motto is do nothing, receive everything. And that's what I offer my clients. So message me on Instagram or Facebook. I am the Joy Sahasrara on Instagram. On Facebook, I'm just Joy Sahasrara. And yeah, have a beautiful day.